Welcome back to the 5% Club. I'm Shayla King, a former C-suite executive turned business and life coach. And this is the podcast for leaders who want it all. The promotions, the paychecks, and luxurious amounts of time for the things that matter most. Each week, I'm going to teach you from my performance and happiness formula what it takes to rise to the top without burnout and overwhelm. Work less, make more, and design a life you love. That's what we do in the 5% Club. Let's go. The world loves a suffering woman. I'm not one of those people that thinks everything happens to you for a reason, but I believe a reason can come out of it. The more successful and the higher up a man goes in an organization, the more likable he becomes. Wow. And it's the exact inverse for a woman.
Coaching changes like your internal operating system. You just operate differently in the world. You see the world differently. You move differently. No matter what, if I'm intelligent or not, if I'm beautiful or not, I still love myself. That's when you can come and have true relationship with people. And you're not living in this prison of having to perform for love or acceptance.
Welcome back to the 5% Club. I'm Shayla King, your favorite performance and happiness coach. And today I have a treat for you. As you all know, I love getting coached and living the work myself, and so that I can be the best possible coach for all of my clients. And so I have a special guest on today. I met her at Powerhouse Women. If you haven't been, it's a vibe. And I went through her metamorphosis program, and then I hired her as a one-on-one coach. And so what drew me to her is she specializes in a lot of areas that I don't have much experience in IFS work, in parts work, internal family systems work, in parts work, and in nervous system regulation, which is probably what Kismet attracted me to her the most. And she just brings a depth to her coaching that I don't see very often. So she is a speaker, a retreat facilitator, a coach, an author, and a huge podcast host herself with over 120 million downloads. And you can feel her soul every time you talk to her. Today, you get to meet Krista Williams. She's the host of Almost 30 and Morning Microdose that you can check out everywhere the podcasts are available. But you're in for a treat today as you will feel her soul in this conversation. So welcome, Krista.
I'm so excited. We've been cruising for like 2 hours, going super deep. So it feels like a natural little journey for us. But I'm really excited to be introduced to your audience. I know that they're smart and interesting and, just as incredible as you. So I feel really lucky to be in front of them.
Thank you. So we have some things that really make us similar, and we have some things that make us very different. So both Midwest.
The fact that you are dressed for the podcast today, I am dressed for Austin weather. Let's just say that if you're on video, I am fully casual. I missed the memo.
She was like, I don't know what kind of Austin podcast this is.
I didn't know.
It's fair.
Okay.
It's fair. It can go anyway.
Austin, I'm like, are we wearing Vibrams? Are we wearing
we can go everywhere. I actually feel like when I'm in Austin, I'm dressing up as a character.
Yes.
I love the Western look.
Same, me too.
I think I'm a cowgirl when it happens. I don't know how to do the cowgirl things. I went to Willie Nelson's Luck Reunion the other day, and it's just so fun to dress up.
Love. You look stunning today. I'm a little underdressed, but
you look
so
gorgeous.
Excited to be
Absolutely stunning. Your skin always glows every time I see you.
Oh, bless.
Love.
Peptides, red light, collagen.
See, these are the kind of things we talk about.
Yeah.
I love it. So we're going to go deep today on a couple of things that my audience may not have heard about before. We're going to talk about the mother wound, which is something I wanted to avoid talking to you about, like the plague. But what I'd love to start with is we're both Midwest girls, and I think we both had dreams that were a little bigger than where we came from. So can you talk to me a little bit about that discomfort that you felt when you were growing up?
Gosh, so yeah, I grew up in a small town in Ohio, much like you. And I think for most of my life, I was always asking why. I was always curious. And I was someone that just was like a deep feeler from a young age. I was just always thinking a little bit differently. The first books that I wrote were to aliens, about aliens. I was writing about law of attraction from a young age. I was writing about space and the secret man at the house, which was like a ghost. It was just, I was living a very different kind of spiritual lifestyle. And honestly, it sounds really beautiful, but it was really hard because I was living in a culture in Ohio that was really conservative, really kind of shut down, not a lot of dreamers and not a lot of possibility. And I always wanted a life that felt really big and expansive and full and rich. And I always felt like my soul came here to do something. It came here on mission. It came here with a purpose. And when you don't have any place for that energy to go, it can make you feel really sad and off. And I think for most of my life, I felt really anxious and depressed, but I didn't really have dreams. Like, I think I just kind of lived in life with this feeling of like figuring things out. And the only dream possibilities where I grew up was to work at P&G or work at GE.
Yeah.
It was like, you're going to work in these corporate jobs, and the most success you would have would be climbing the corporate ladder. And so for a while, that was kind of the dream that I put in front of myself. But after being in the corporate world for probably like 6 to 8 years, I realized it wasn't. And I've always been someone that just wanted to really be myself and serve in a way that felt aligned to the truth of who I am and to God. And now that I'm on that path, it's so fulfilling, but it's not easy to be someone that grows up in a small town and feels like you're meant for more, feels like you're different. And I know you have that experience too.
Yeah, and when you talked about the limited job opportunities, I mean, I remember my parents telling me, "Oh, you're really smart, Shayla. You can probably be like an assistant manager at the local supermarket."
Every one of my boyfriends said I'd be an amazing hairstylist, and that was their dream for me. They were like, I had 3 boyfriends that were like, you are going to be an amazing hairstylist, because I had like good hair. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, and it's like nothing bad about those professions, but I
Not
think
at
it's like
all.
such limited views of what was possible and like the width of what we could even choose from. And I think that even well-meaning parents are just don't see the world as big as you do. So did you ever feel like that desire to do something bigger was, or that ambition was like dirty and wrong? And like, why can't you be grateful for the life and place that you have? Because that's what my clients hear all the time is like, why can't you just be grateful for the good enough life you have?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I think, well, my ambition, from a young age, I didn't really know where to place it or channel it. I've always been someone that's deeply spiritual and a feeler, so I didn't really know where to place it. But then when I kind of discovered in high school that I could channel it into being the good girl, being perfect, being the achiever, I was like, okay, perfect. I know where to channel all of this energy, because this is a never ending path that I'm going to be on, that there's always more. I could always be smarter. I could always be prettier. I could always be better, whatever. So it actually was a helpful path because it brought me along that way. And when I got in the corporate world and I started to like grow and, climb the corporate ladder, it was always the next step will make you happy. The next step is the answer. The next dollar amount is the answer. The next job is the answer. And so you start on that rat race. And I was on it for quite some time. And I think there was a few different things that happened to me in the corporate world that just kind of got me pretty disenchanted with everything that was going on. But I think the hardest thing for me was that it lacked a lot of soul and it lacked a lot of authenticity and truth.
Yeah.
I remember being in meetings and just being like, the furthest I got with clients, because I was in consulting, was when we talked about their personal life and when I got to know them as a person.
Yeah.
And when I actually saw beneath all of the KPIs, all of the things, the strategies, and got to know them, that's when I had a client for life. And I never forgot that. And that's actually what made me successful in consulting, was being with like the heart of people and the soul of people rather than the ego or who they're presenting as. And I just was like, I want to do this full time. Like, I want to stop pretending. I want to get past that. And I want to do this forever. But it's been a journey from that point, leaving corporate world, into like becoming more of who I am in service. And it never really ends. There's still moments in time where I feel like I could stretch and become more of that person.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that you said that stuck with me is you're like, I was in it and it didn't feel like I thought it would. And it felt like it was like lacking. And so I felt that similarly when I was, late 20s and had the American dream on paper. I had the 2 kids, the 2 dogs, was married. We both were these like business leaders making 6 figures apiece. And I was completely exhausted. And I feel what you're saying about like, is there more? Is life supposed to be bigger than this? And so I think it's really interesting for the audience to hear that you found that by leaving corporate, and I found that by rearranging corporate. But I think what we both did is we said, this playbook that was given to us, we have to opt out. We have to say. And so in my language, it's the 95%ers follow the playbook. And it's exactly what's expected of you as a good girl, like you mentioned, and we'll dig deeper into that. And it is what absolutely everyone expects out of us. And when you follow it, you still feel unfulfilled.
Yep. I think a lot of people have that awakening of that, and I think a lot of times in life, even with money, like we've all heard the story of the billionaire or the millionaire that got the millions and they still weren't happy.
Yeah.
But every single one of us is like, I got to figure that out myself. I got to see. You know what I mean? They're like, I don't know. Like, I kind of believe you. Yeah, like we've all heard of that. When you really get to the pinnacle or the peak and you're not happy. And I think I'd be curious of what you think about this. But I think for me, the biggest and most important thing that I did in the process was not looking at how broken the system was or the lie of the American dream, because there's a lot of places I could go with that, with how broken corporate is, broken our education system is, broken with like the fact that there's so much student loan debt, et cetera. I really had to go to the core of like, who am I? When I could understand who am I at the core, my natural gifts, skills, abilities, then I can figure out from that place, how do I want to operate in the world? How do I want to make money? How do I want to help people? How do I want to move? And when you're kind of going from like looking at a job listing and you're like, okay, account manager, how can I become an account manager? How can I mold myself into this job description of being an amazing account manager and leveraging 20% of what I'm naturally good at and focusing it on this? I went backwards and was like, who am I as like a being? And when you can really hone in on your gifts, that is when you make the most money. That is when you make the most impact. That is when life becomes a lot easier. One of the books that I love by Gay Hendricks talks about the zones of genius, zones of cognizance, zones of incompetence, and then zones of excellence. And basically in it, understanding the zones of your life of when you're in the zone of genius, it's everything's easy, you're in flow, and that's really where you're going to be the most successful and things are sustainable. And so through my path of leaving corporate, I had to find out who I was and then really figure out when I was in my zone of genius and how could I leverage that to become like the most successful, happy version.
What did you find out?
I found that I was a deeply spiritual, in touch, and intuitive person, that really a lot of my gift is in the depth that I avoided so much. And that means that I can really hold space and be with people in processes of transformation, processes of growth, processes of the unknown, processes of, you know, like the attunement, processes of like their inner workings. And that's what I can do in coaching. And that's
And
what I can do.
literally in the last hour, I just told her the deepest things that have ever happened in my life.
Yeah. And how did it feel? Like
So easy. So easy, because it wasn't a place of, I don't like to feel like I'm a victim and I don't like to feel pity. And so you never dropped into this, that is so terrible. I am so sorry. But I still felt some empathy. And so it was really just holding space that like, you can tell me anything and I can handle it and I can hold it. But it wasn't this, I'm going to be shocked and awed and surprised and feel bad for you. And so it was a beautiful level of empathy that was calm.
I'm grateful you're bringing that up, not because I did that, but just for anyone listening too, because we all like to be held and attuned to and heard. And I think there's a lot of women probably listening that have been really met by women in their life. And what's important about that, and I'll take that from a parts perspective, is you have a part of you that's sharing very vulnerably about things that have been hard. And if I come to you, I'm like, that is so rough, that is so hard. That part then is like, oh, this is too much. I'm too much. I should probably not share that. That might be too much for her. So I'm just going to hold that back.
The other part, if I can interrupt, that I think is really important for women to know is when you do that with a friend, what happens next is me too. And here's what happened to me. And the beautiful thing about coaching is it's not reciprocal.
The best part about it.
And so you get to have somebody hold that space for you and let it be about you without them, not necessarily like, it's not always to one up, but sometimes it's a way we communally share and relate to each other. But it's a different process when you tell a coach.
Totally. I think I had judgment about coaching before I became a coach. Like I thought coaching was fake. I thought it was a scam. I didn't understand it. And then we hired a coach like for a specific part of the business, and then ended up becoming our life coach, and just having a space that could be fully about me and my process and who I was and how I was showing up was the most instrumental thing for me. In my life, I had never been in a situation as someone that's deeply sensitive and empath, codependent tendencies, where it was just about me. It was honestly like I'd be in sessions like, so what about you? Where are you? Like women will do that with me all the time.
It feels so awkward to have the focus be on you, right?
But having the focus on you is so healing.
So how did you adjust to it?
Oh my gosh, it was just the greatest gift of all time. And once I got used to it, it just became this recalibration of who I was, because when I kept going outside of myself with everybody, how are you? What's up with you? How's work with you? It was not only a way to control the situation or scenario, but it was a way to avoid deep intimacy and vulnerability, and a way for me to not really even understand who I was as a person. Because if I'm always in your stuff, it's always about you. There's no real truth of my identity, my perspective, my opinion.
You're like constantly deflecting.
Exactly. And so it really helped develop me into a person, honestly,
Yeah.
for like maybe some of the first times of my life, just being in a full space of myself, my process, my opinions, my ideas. And coaching, that's why I love it so much, because it gives women that are not used to having space held for themselves in a true way. It gives them that gift.
God, I love that. And I think there's so many things tied to it. One of my words, I do 3 words every year. And one of my words this year is resolute. And it's really about me knowing what I want and just standing in it. Not aggressively, not apologetically, but just saying, I know what I want. And I think we can fall back into that. You just said like turning it over because I want to deflect and not go as deep on me, but it's also because we feel like we constantly have to be caretakers. We have to be good girls. And I noticed this coming up yesterday. We're building a pool outside and there were construction workers there on a Sunday. And I was like, they shouldn't have to work on a Sunday, right? But like they're choosing to. And I was like, I need to get them something. Like I need to go get them food. And like maybe we could go, my daughter works at a donut store. Maybe we could go get them donuts and like bring that back. Or like, I wish I was a cook. Like lots of cute women, like this is how much pressure I'm putting on myself, like bake cute shit or like have nice like sun-made tea to bring out. Like I wish it was that kind of woman. And like I'm going through this whole rigmarole, and like my husband just went to his office and like was working. You know, the thought didn't cross his mind.
And for the men, that thought's not crossing their mind. They're not working thinking, why isn't this woman brought me donuts? Why?
Yeah,
Where
there's
the
that of it
heck
too.
is my cupcake? Like they are absolutely not thinking.
But I think I'm a bad person for not doing it. So let's talk a little bit about the good girl tendencies that we have. I'm on a mission to like dismantle it, to end the suffering of women, and to have us stop thinking we need to constantly be a good girl. So will you tell me about a quiche at Air One?
Oh my gosh. So we had an internal family systems call on Saturday. I teach this technique called IFS. Usually therapists use it. It's a psychotherapy technique. In it, it's like parts work. And so I was talking about this situation recently where I was at Air One. And Air One is like the very luxury, bougie grocery store in California. It's a whole thing, but I love it. And so I was at Air One and I wanted to get a quiche. I love quiche. It's like my favorite food. I'm like, oh my God, they have quiche today. It's Saturday. I'm going to get a quiche. So I asked them like, hey, could you get the quiche? Could you heat it up for me? And they're like, yeah, we'll heat it up for you, but it's going to take us like 10 minutes. And I was like, okay. They're heating it up. And all of a sudden, this store gets bum rushed with people. It's like a tourist trap at this point. There's so many people. And there was just part of me that was like, I don't want to do people right now. You know, sometimes you're just like, today's not the day. I wasn't feeling it. So I had bought my groceries and I was waiting for my quiche. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to leave. I'm going to peel out. I'm not getting the quiche. I'm just going to leave. So I left without getting that quiche that they heated up for me so kindly. Me before, first of all, I would have stayed at 40 hours. If they would have told me the quiche is done in a week, I would have been like, great, I'm going to be here a week. I'm camping out. I'm quitting my job. I'm going to be here for that freaking quiche. Or I would have been like, no, I'll just have it cold. Like I'll do these things. So instead I just left. And in the car, I had to have a moment with myself where I was like, ooh, that a good person wouldn't do that. Like a good person would never leave and do that. Like, is that the most integrous move for you? Which I don't hate that voice in me. That voice is not a problem because that's a really good call out. But in the car, I'm just like, you know what, babe? I still love you, even if you left that quiche behind, even if you like abandoned the quiche, even if they're judging you, even if they hate you. And in that small moment, I could come to just being my own best friend and being my own defender of like, it's okay if you're not perfect. It's okay if you weren't doing the best thing all of the time. Because we hold ourselves to such high standards as women. And I think that really goes back to the mother wound. So the mother wound work is a lot of the work that I do with women, because the mother wound is the place where we have usually the deepest wounding of our life. Our mother is our first relationship. She's our first measure of nourishment, of safety, of emotional regulation, of nervous system regulation. She is the person that we are clocking from a subconscious level every second until we're around 7. And so when we have a mother wound or a mother relationship that's fractured, we have this part of us that can come forward that's like, I have to be perfect to get mom's love.
Yeah.
Okay, my mom's not paying attention to me. She's got her own stuff going on. She's working all the time. She's stressed with having to hold it all. Maybe she's in a marriage that's not fulfilling. What makes my mom pay attention to me? What makes her love me? Oh, when I got an A on my test. Oh, when I helped her with this thing.
Yeah.
Oh, when I'm quiet. Oh, when I don't say this thing. Oh, when I look really great. Or oh, when I look really beautiful. And our subconscious mind is clocking that and making that our reality from a very young age. So for me, my good girl was being really beautiful. My good girl was being very articulate. My good girl was being well liked. My good girl was holding space for everyone but me, asking really good questions, like being the emotional attunement for everyone else. And so I've had to really unpack that in my life as I got older. And the last thing that I'll say is it wasn't for me like I don't love those aspects of me. I love that I am an emotionally attuned person. I love that I speak eloquently because of that. I love the benefits of that. But where I've found is like, where can I come to an authentic place with that where I'm not putting that forward for people because I think they won't love me if I'm not that.
Yeah.
And so when you can come to the truth of like, no matter what, if I'm intelligent or not, if I'm beautiful or not, I still love myself. That's when you can come and have true relationship with people and you're not living in this prison of having to perform for love or acceptance.
God, I love that.
It's deep. I mean,
I feel
for
like we have
women,
to let it like land.
let it breathe. It's true. It's true.
There are a few pieces in it that I want to pick apart. First of all, I love the quiche example because it is both kind of a silly novel example and it shows the moment of real love that you needed for yourself. And so I talk a lot to my clients about true self-love and having their own back and not failing with shame. And when they fail, to still love themselves just like they would a friend who messed up. And so you gave an example about something that I'll say is a unrealistic expectation for women, right? We have these crazy ones, but it was still a moment where you felt like you let yourself down. And so you wanted to show that love back. And the way that I really divide these with my clients is we talk about what other people want out of you versus what your true values are and your expectations for yourself. And it's okay for us to feel let down when we don't meet those, but we've got to base our lives on our own standards.
Totally.
Right. And not on the world's. And so bringing it into the mother wound, I think is really helpful to understand why we might do it to seek that love. And I would say mother wound, we're going to get into in just a second, because it was something I did not want to talk about and it was really helpful. And so we're going to go there. But I also think it's just the expectations for all of society that women are helpful, that women put other people first, that women don't advocate for themselves. And so, couple of thoughts on it. One is I had a similar example where, on a Tuesday, I was feeling tired and busy and needed to work while I got my hair done. And I thought I was a really bad person for not being talkative enough to my hairdresser that day.
Say less. I have to do that with my hairstylist too.
Meanwhile, watch the news. Men are literally committing freaking crimes and not losing an ounce of sleep over it. And so I want us to just think about this burden that we put on ourselves when all day long, every move we make, we're questioning. Everything we're doing, we're saying, was I right? Did I make her mad? Is Jamie going to like me? Did they think I said that a little too harsh in the meeting? And all day long, we're wasting our energy on replaying and asking ourselves if we were good enough, if we made anybody mad. And I really want to move us out of the good girl into the just fucking be yourself and follow your own values. And sometimes you'll mess up and then love yourself when you do, and then you can adjust. We do after action reviews. And so it's what worked, what didn't, what do I want to do different? Super simple, just like you do for a project at work, right? But the only way we can do it is if we first remember how much we love ourselves and that we're safe. And once we feel secure, we can stop that pendulum swinging from everything I do is wrong and shame to they just don't get me and I'm fine, to being intellectually honest.
Totally. I love that you find the piece of the self-anchorship before you do the review. And I always say that, your inner critic can become your inner coach. But you have to be anchored and resourced first, because if my inner critic doesn't have an anchorship of self, she is running amok. She is like, that was terrible. You looked horrible. No one liked you. Everyone's mad at you. You better start again. But if it's like I have her in the inner coach space, She's like, hey, you probably could have said this better. Could have done a little pause there. Actually felt like should have really told more of a story here. And she can be really helpful. But if she's in the right position, she can be helpful. And I think when people have some of their parts, and this was where the parts work helps, when they have these parts sort of running amok without any safety or belief that they are loved no matter what, it's going to ruin your life. And I think for me, one of the biggest parts of the good girl was coming out of the need to perform and always make everyone happy, always be on, always be talking, always be this aspect of me that I really love. I love my performer part. She's incredible. She goes to parties and crushes, but it's exhausting, and not everyone is deserving. I deserve my own rest. I deserve my own peace. And a practice that I do quite regularly to really get out of the good girl is when I find myself picking up on a moment where I notice maybe someone's like, oh, like if I'm at the hairstylist and I have my laptop out and I have that thought, I really should be talking to her. I really should be having a conversation. You know, you've known her forever. She probably wants to talk to you. And I just seriously say, I'm like, even if I don't talk, I still love myself. Even if I don't say anything, I still love myself. It's having the moment of catching the loop thought, catching the unconscious belief, and then stopping and saying, even if I don't do that, I love myself. And sometimes, honestly, you have to do exposure therapy. Like, I just believe so much from a nervous system perspective, from an identity perspective, even, you know, in therapeutic relationship, you have to have exposure therapy, which can show you that, like hairstylist, it's a low stakes situation.
Right.
So you can be like, okay, can I be the bad girl here? Which is someone that's not performing. I'm not going to try. I'm not going to be super nice to her. I'm not going to ask her tons of questions, and just allow my nervous system and my identity to recalibrate to this. And then I can see what I can do next. Because if you expect a woman to be like, who's been being the good girl her whole life, to just kind of be the wild woman the next day, it's never going to happen.
Right.
So you have to find little moments in your day to recalibrate and expand your capacity for being more authentic rather than going like balls to the wall.
Yeah, I think that's why I like the word resolute so much for this year, because it felt like I wasn't performing.
Love it.
Like if I don't want to, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that example really made me think about a lot of times if you feel like the court gesture or something where you have to perform all the time, that when you're not in the mood, then you're like, I'm just not going to go. Because if I go, I got to expend all this freaking energy.
Yes.
And so instead, I love the idea of going and not performing, of going and soaking it in, of going and like having a conversation I want to and not if I don't.
Yep.
And just like pulling back.
I had this situation yesterday that was such a good reminder for me of how far I've come, because I went to this party in Austin and it was a bunch of people I didn't know. And honestly, I think a few of them were under the influence. And I ended up talking to a few people, and you think because they're under the influence, they were kind of weird. You know, they're just saying weird stuff.
Yeah.
Like I was like, happy birthday. It was one of their birthdays. They're like, it's not my birthday. It's just my receive day. And they were just going on. And I'm like,
Right.
old me would have been like, I should have asked a different question. I should have said something different. I should try harder because they're not really giving me anything. They're not responding to me. They're not talking to me. And new version of me gives less to people that give less to me and leaves a situation and goes, oh, they're a weirdo.
Yeah.
Where usually the codependent part of me makes everything about me, everything me being bad, everything me being the problem. And I am not saying that I'm never the problem. That's not it. What I'm saying is that I can understand that not every situation is my responsibility, and not every situation is mine to carry.
And it's not always about you.
And it's not always about you. And you can just leave it.
Yeah, I love that, because we talk about that sometimes in meetings too, when people go back and they like play the whole thing. I talk about in a conference room when you see the one person that's nervous and they're like trying to jump in at all times, leaning forward. I got to talk. I got to prove my worth. I got to show that I'm important. And if you just realize it's not about you and like center the business problem instead of yourself, and in those parties, you can like, it's a party. It's not about me.
People actually, you just ask them questions. That's what I've really realized. They're going to have the best time in the world with you.
Oh, people will tell you they love you and they never heard you say a word.
Exactly. No, literally, people will be like, she's like my best friend. I'm like, you know nothing about me.
Correct.
I just asked you questions all night because I'm genuinely interested. But like, it actually is, trying hard is like so much more effort than actually not trying.
Right.
In just being and existing, which I think so many women aren't used to. We didn't see mothers that just existed. We didn't see mothers that rested. We don't see it a lot in culture. We see so much trying, efforting, and performing. And I'm not saying that that's not valuable, but your life gets so much more energy and you get so much more done and you get so much more joy out of things when there's less performing happening and more you.
I mean, it goes back to what we talk about all the time, is the idea of can you smile? Will you smile? Can you smile for me? And I mean, I remember I worked at a call center when I was like 17 and 18. And I remember being asked constantly to smile.
Wow.
And one time a guy said in a meeting, he goes, I was looking at you across the room and you were giving me the evilest look. And he goes, I moved and you were staring at the same spot. And I was like, that's my thinking face.
100%. I realized that when I became a keynote speaker, like I remember I'd look at people and I'd be like, why aren't they smiling and nodding at me? And you get in your head, you're like, everyone should be like this. And then you're like, actually, I realize I know this myself. If you tell me something that I'm thinking about, I look to the side, I process, I think about it. And so the way that people respond and react to you is so much less about you and so much more about them. But it's funny, I was walking the other day on the street and this guy came up to me and was talking to me. And he's like, I thought you were so mean when I walked past you because you weren't smiling. I'm like, what kind of psychopath would I be if I'm like,
all the time?
And I said, I'm like, honestly, it's not always safe for a woman to be smiling at every man she sees.
Well, and I'm not always happy to see everyone.
Exactly. I'm like,
I'm not excited
not
all the
like that.
time. I'm not here to like look good in the way that you want to entertain you.
I'm trying to get my groceries.
I am a human.
Yeah, honestly, I'm trying to get my groceries.
Living my own life, right?
Leave it.
Exactly. It also made me think, I was at a party recently. I'm trying to decide what context to give or not give. And a man told me, oh, you're like an executive coach. Cute. Like, and I get this a lot, right, with the coach saying, and I myself judged it. I was so weird at a party the first time I ever said I was a life coach. Afterwards, I was like, she goes, oh, I could use a life coach. And I go, I'm like a really good one. That was the first time, Krista, I ever said I was a coach out loud.
Oh, I love that.
And she's a friend to this day, which is fun. Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
But it was because I had my own mindset of what a life coach was. And I thought that some weren't serious. And I'm like, no, I have 20 years in corporate and I know what I'm talking about. And I just had to feel validated because I was letting go of this persona and ego that I had from being a chief people officer, where I felt like if I say that in the right room, like it legitimizes me. And now I'm a life coach. And so I was like real nervous about it. Well, anyways, so now when I say that, people have the reaction, but now I own it. I'm like, hell yeah, the life coach is here. Let's go. Right? Like ready to change some lives. Let's go. Ready to make some money. Like, people understanding all of what it is. And so anyways, I'm at this party and I said that I'm a coach and he's like, oh, that's cute. He's like, I actually have a group that if you ever take your business seriously, like if you ever had a podcast or wrote a book, like then you could come speak to my men's group. And I was like, how lucky would I be? But guess what I did as my response? Nothing.
Exactly. Sounds great.
It feels so good.
Yeah.
It was so good because I had no need to prove.
Yeah,
I had no need to say podcast has been going, right? Like I had nothing. And so I think that's fun too, is just to remember like we don't have to perform.
God, you save so much energy when you just don't try and convince people. Don't try and make them understand you. When you don't try and
like let them be wrong about you.
Let them be wrong. Exactly.
That's my life's work.
Our sisters, like let them be anything. It is so much energy to try and convince people that you are worthy, that you are anything. And I just got so much more energy in my life and I found so much more peace when I know completely and understandably people don't understand me or my life or what I do or how I live or why I believe what I believe. But why would they? If I was to live in their shoes, I'd believe what they believed. I'd live how they live. If they were to live in mine, they'd be mine. So when I really said of let go, not only did my life expand, but my relationships deepened too, because I stopped feeling like I had to have everyone understand me and understand what I do. And especially with life coaching, it's so unique and layered and different and everyone kind of approaches it differently. And so to explain it is just always never going to do it justice.
Completely.
Mother wound stuff.
Let's do it.
Why was that so?
Okay.
Because I think for your audience especially, the reason why I just kind of circle back to it is these are high-functioning, high-powered women that are doing a lot, that are working in a world that doesn't always support mothers in the first place. And I think the mother wound is so important for us to look at. And I think the reaction that you had of not wanting to look at it is really normal. I had that too. But I think just understanding the context and understanding it as the first layer can be so helpful for women finding more compassion and grace for themselves.
So I was in Krista's Metamorphosis program and one of the weeks is on the mother wound. And I was literally like, maybe I don't come this week.
Wow. My favorite.
It was that bad. But I was like, no, obviously I'm going to show up. I'm just going to not like it. Right. This is what I told myself. But it was partly because I didn't want to be a victim. And I felt like if we were going to go bitch about our mothers and say why they were terrible, horrible people and why we're broken because of them. And none of that fit a paradigm of who I want to be as an empowered woman. And what I found is that I was wrong. And that instead it was really understanding what we experienced and how that could shape us and what we want to do about it now. And like it was so beautiful and opening. So I know you gave a little bit of an introduction to motherhood earlier. If you want to elaborate on it, and then I want to talk about a question that you asked specifically that like blew things open for me.
Yeah, I'm so happy to. And just to lay the groundwork, I love my mom. We have a deep relationship, as deep as we could go together. But it was the most challenging relationship of my life. And I'm sure I was not a walk in the park. Let me tell you, when I first discovered the B word and I dropped the B word on her, man, I thought I thought I was like really with it. So it's been
I have a 14 and a 16-year-old right now, and that scares me.
Yeah, honestly, you will never have that. That was like me just trying to differentiate and rebel. But it was a really challenging relationship. And I think when I really started to work on my body is when I really discovered the mother wound. Because when you start to heal the relationship with your body, you have to get curious about, why do I believe these things about my body? Why do I believe that I have to be thin to be loved? Why do I believe that, I have to control what I eat to be healthy? Why do I believe that I have to continue to work out more, eat less, do these different diets, this never ending cycle that we put ourselves on as women? And I realized that a lot of it went back to my mom.
Yeah.
My mom really struggled with her body and weight and was always doing something, was always over functioning, was always working around the house, like just was doing the most. And so when I started to look even further at that, you look at the broader relationship culture has to the feminine. Our culture believes that women should be small, women shouldn't be seen, women should be nice, women should be good, women should be in these boxes. And then you kind of go broader ancestrally with the feminine, if you want to go back that far. But for a lot of us, the relationship to our mother is really responsible for some of the most beautiful aspects of who we are and some of the hardest, because our moms were usually really hard on us, hypercritical. Our moms weren't always the best mothers, and it doesn't mean we should hate them for the rest of our lives. But when we do mother wound work, we really sort of protect and honor the little girl in us that did not have her needs met.
Yeah.
I am not a fan of victim either, but I have to honor and acknowledge that there was a little girl that didn't get attuned to, that didn't get a mother that was really there for her, that got a mother that had mental health issues, that really struggled, that had her own eating stuff, that had her own relational stuff, and that impacted me. And when I could really hold space for the truth of that experience for myself, it not only liberated me, but it gave me so much grace and compassion for who I was and allowed me to not become a victim, because then I had empowered myself through my own healing. And so when women of the workplace and in the corporate world can really see the mother wound experienced in taking on the relational load for the entire company, women are usually taking on more than the men are. Men don't really care about the office politics or dynamics.
Office housework, we call it.
Women are doing the office housework. Women are usually not saying no. Women usually are leaky with their boundaries. Women are usually feeling responsible for more things than men. Women have to overwork to prove themselves. Like there's a lot of that works into the mother wound. And so if you want to be better in the corporate world, or you want to be better in the workplace, looking at why you're doing what you're doing and why you're over functioning or burning yourself out can usually be traced back to mother wound.
Yeah. I think it's deep and important for us to pause at that acknowledgement phase. I think that's what I wanted to blow past. I didn't want to ever let
It's painful, babe.
like literally as we're
It's
saying it right
painful.
now.
I
don't want to
so
be
painful.
vulnerable. I don't want to say that because I also always liked comparing myself to like the worst. I'm like, no, I had a great childhood. I didn't have any of the big stuff.
I know that was
right?
the first thing you said to me.
Yeah.
When we started talking about your childhood, you labeled, I don't have big T trauma. So in therapy speak, they do big T, which is like, abuse, abuses, etc. And then there's little T, which is like more the micro relational trauma. But over time, when you have consistent little T, it becomes complex PTSD.
Yeah. And I don't think I've shared this on the pod before, but I actually have not had a relationship with my mom in multiple years now. And so I think that was really like, oh God, am I going to open this up? And are you going to like guilt me into that was the wrong decision? And if I healed this, that then I should, and all like that. I think that was all part of what I was worried about. Right. And so what I've learned from doing some of the work with you and with others, and from being in I feel wildly loved by my husband. I feel unconditionally loved by Brian. And you mentioned about thinking about the little girl and what the little girl didn't get. And having unconditional love that was not about performance. And where you could be the child and be cared for instead of also having to be an adult is something that I am really sad I didn't get.
Yeah.
I mean, still to this day, I wish I had the mom that's like so freaking proud when stuff's happening, right? I wish I had the mom who let me be a child. I grew up really fast. I was like reviewing bills and paying bills at 7. You know, I was knowing the household finances and figuring it all out. And like, when I look back, this is not about my mom being the villain. Like, she grew so much from where she was in her childhood and what she went through. But I still get to make the decision at the end of the day of what's healthiest for me and my children and my family. And so I talk a lot to my clients, more in a container than live on the podcast, but about how much choice we have in our lives. And I think so much we have years and years and years of suffering because we feel like we don't have an option and we feel like we don't have a choice. And what I love about this knowing is that you get to first protect yourself. And some of the most beautiful work I think you do is around the inner mothering. Will you talk a little bit about what that is to be your own mother?
Yeah. So I think for a lot of us, you mentioned it, and myself as well, as much as my mom tried, she wasn't necessarily the mother archetype. She didn't necessarily come to me with a lot of warmth or consistency or tenderness or nervous system regulation. She was very much in her own mental health issues and in her own life. And so I didn't really know what that meant to have a mother in a way. She was kind of a child. A lot of times that's what can happen. And so I was going through life without any sort of understanding of what it meant to have a loving, caring, like sweetness and softness to myself. I was pushing really hard. I was burning myself out. I was over functioning. I was doing all these things. And I didn't have someone within me or a part within me that was like, hey, babe, I know you want to go out with your friends tonight, but we're going to stay home. The inner mother would say, hey, I know we want to have that like extra dessert that you've had. Let's just cool it. Let's like sleep really well. So when we can cultivate this inner mother within us, this like inner aspect of our soul, it can be helpful to bring in the archetype of the mother. Because if we think about rather our mother, but the archetype of the mother that we can understand from a cerebral level is someone that's loving, compassionate, kind, space holding, soft, like present, attuned, like.
But you still gave in that example, like some discipline, some structure, some
Totally.
guidance that actually feels really
Totally.
comforting.
Yes, because the mother is like, she knows what's best for you now and in the future.
Yeah.
And that could be inner father work or inner mother. But yes, she's very much
Frontal
like
lobe.
there for your best, there for you to be the best version of yourself. And sometimes a mother says you have to stay in tonight and it's for your best.
Right.
It's because you've been pushing too hard. It's because you've been doing too much.
Yeah.
And we can bring in that inner mother, like, not what would Krista do, but what would my inner mother say about this situation? She'd probably say, you have too much on your schedule. You're doing too much. You're stretching yourself too thin. You need to stay in tonight. You need to rest this weekend. We're going to cancel a few things. And that sort of frame of like going and tuning to the archetype of the inner mother can be helpful for us sort of recalibrating to a life that has more softness and has more kindness to ourselves.
The soft life.
I know, the soft life. I mean, and I'm not like a total soft life girl.
I'm not either.
But like, I'm just
But
like,
we can have some of it. Let's get a dab.
Exactly.
Let's get a sprinkle.
Let's get a balance of something. Let's just get a little softness to ourselves. Like, you don't have to be like,
the
I don't have to
softness
be like,
to ourselves.
like I can be
That's
soft
it.
to myself. And the softness to myself creates so much more richness in my life.
Yes.
And so your soft life doesn't have to be me sleeping, me in my blankets all day.
But it's when you
whatever.
blow the interview
Uh-huh.
and you let your mother come in and say, we're going to be okay.
Yeah, it's all good.
You're
Like, I still love you. Like, I still love you no matter what. Like, I'm here for you. I love you. Your inner mother could take you to get ice cream. Your inner mother could take you
For a hot bath.
Like, it really could be like, how would you take care of yourself if you could redo your childhood with your dream mother? And you sort of do that in your own mind's eye.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing.
Of course. And I'm sure you're an incredible mother to your daughters. And I'm sure it's like, because you've done so much of the work yourself. So we're so lucky that our generation is doing so much of this work, because the women that are growing up today have so much more. And I'm as well, have so much more than I think our mothers did.
Yeah.
You know?
So many more tools. And I feel like, I mean, I was in Kansas raised on guilt and shame, and I'm trying to really get rid of that for my girls. And I still see it come up all the time, and I'm working on it. But I just see them too, like, imagine the tools they have at their age. I hear them coaching their friends about like their feelings and about how, what if you told her? And what if you, like, you know, it's just amazing how they have the tools as teenagers already and are having better life experiences. And all we want is for our children to Sorry, I want to cry, right? All I want is for my children to be happier and more successful than I was. Like, I only want the best for them. And so I have to watch a lot on this was my programming, or this was the conversation that I had. Like, for instance, what do you talk to your teenage daughter about sex these days versus what I was talked about in my childhood? And literally, like, there's a sex tape on it in Texas. They only teach abstinence. And there was a sex tape on in my daughter's classroom. And it talked about you want to be the goblet in the china, like, cabinet that is untouched. You don't want to be a used McDonald's cup
Wow.
today. And so we've got to figure out how we want to talk to our daughters about their bodies, about their health, about their happiness, about their sexuality. And so these tools allow me to pause and say, what do I want to make my values? And how do I want to talk about this? And how do I want to release the idea of guilt and shame for a woman? And so I know I'm going off a little bit there, but the tools are so freaking powerful.
So powerful. It's funny because I think, I got into the work because I was so depressed and anxious and felt so, I was suicidal for a while there. And so I had to get into the work. I had to do something. When you're at the bottom, you have to figure out something. What is going to help me not want to wake up in the morning? And then you start to do it. And then it becomes just this deep act of self-love and joy and playfulness and
God, I love
all
that.
these things. Like, even today I had this thought where I was like, having judgment of people that don't believe in like woo-woo stuff or spirituality. Like, I was kind of walking to my gym class. I was like, why do they think that like woo-woo stuff is fake? Like, and I was kind of like, well, you're technically being closed-minded about their closed-mindedness.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Well, and we were, right? Like, you've talked about some of this stuff too. You were like, what? And I for sure was. And now I like bring my clients into it kind of a little bit at a time, right? We're going to do a short breathing exercise and we're going to go a little further and a little further because that's how I had to get into it.
Yes.
I mean, I was not ready for Gabby Bernstein the first day.
Totally.
But God did going to one of her conferences change me.
Totally. You have to experience it. Sometimes you have to cellularly experience it and embody it. And especially if you've had religious trauma.
Yeah.
Or religious programming.
We can do a few episodes on that.
I know. It can be really hard to come back to spirituality and God. And it took me a long time to come back to my relationship with God after having, sort of a religious trauma experience coming from Ohio.
Yeah. So I want to go to the question that you asked. The question you asked that blew my mind open was, what did your mom think about people who were overweight when you were growing up? And the reason that meant so much to me was because I talk a lot with my clients about a playbook. And the entire world, every individual has a playbook for how you should live. I have one for how you should live. I have one for how I should live, how my spouse should live, how my kids should live.
I have one too, and mine's better than everyone else's.
No, mine is better. My mom had a pillow when I was a kid that said, I'm not bossy, I just have better ideas, that she bought me. Right, because that is what I thought too, right? We all think our playbook is the best.
Of course.
And if you're right, and sometimes we align this to religion and we get
really particular.
Yes. I guess. So, and really judgmental, that righteous.
Yep.
So, right.
Righteous,
So we are very righteous about what our playbook looks like. And so what I realized in this was that I had a very narrow window of what was acceptable. So you could not be overweight, but you could not be healthy. And like, I've been going to the gym, girl, and I've been trying. And it's so funny because I realized when you asked that question, why I had an upper limit. And it was because if you were overweight, you were lazy. This is what was the belief system when I was growing up. If you're overweight, you were lazy. If you were too fit, you were vain, you were selfish, you did not have real work in your life. You were somehow like, I don't know, gifted money. And it was wrong. And you just cared way too much about your body. So this was the window you were allowed to be in. Not fat, not overweight, and definitely not with abs. Right? And so like my mom didn't teach me any healthy habits. She like drank Coca-Cola and would, eat. I never saw her eat, but she made sure she wasn't overweight. But she never went to the gym. We never had a gym membership. So I didn't get to learn any of those healthy habits. And again, not bashing on her, but it's so important to understand. No wonder I thought that women with a six-pack, I wouldn't take them seriously intellectually.
Of course. Have to be beautiful, but not too beautiful to be threatening. You have to be smart, but not too smart to in front of the men. I remember growing up, my mom said her biggest fear was having a child that was fat. And I remember my dad saying one time, we walked past this woman that was really big and she had like her makeup done and her hair done and all this stuff. And he's like, you know what? You can have all that done, but if you're fat, no one's looking at you. And just these, these very subtle things that
those aren't subtle.
Yeah, true.
No, I mean, it honestly breaks my heart to hear my biggest fear is to have a fat child.
I know.
Like,
So-
no pressure on you at all.
Yeah. So it got very tight, you know, of like, there's a very tight window. And I think too, my mom would be someone, and a lot of women have this, where the mothers are competitive with them and kind of see them as like a sister relationship or dynamic. And I had a situation many times where I would get ready and my mom would be like, "Oh, you look so beautiful. I look so horrible. I look so fat. I look so whatever." And so it was good for me to be beautiful because I got validation, but it was also bad because it made my
Made
mom
her feel bad.
So there was
How
this
dare
very
you?
complex relationship with our body and beauty that women have. And you can see it all the time today. Women tearing women down, women being very judgmental. Like, I do think the weight thing is something that's so deeply embedded in our culture and society. And I think, you know, different conversation, but the GLP-1s has really exacerbated the obviousness of that, because now that there's this drug that can get you from that, we've sort of lost the plot on like body positivity and sort of that movements, because now we have this thing that can really make anyone thin.
And weight and health are two different things. Yeah.
Yes, weight and health are two different things. And so a lot of times in life, it's such an important process to come outside of the unconscious prisons that we live in. Because for me, an unconscious prison I could live in is, I can't be fat because I'm going to be abandoned and I won't be loved, but I can't be too beautiful because I'll also be abandoned and I won't be loved. And really this paradigm that I was sort of living in, and coming into like just a deepening and a drop in of like, what is my truth? And what is my fullest acceptance of who I am, how I look, how I present, and how can I love myself, even if I'm really beautiful, even if I'm not, even if I'm thin, even if I'm not, outside of my mother, outside of my father. And that's some of the biggest work you can do in life. And I think most people stop at that point of their personal growth and self-development.
Yeah.
They'll grow a lot. They'll be like, "Oh, I did my to-do list. I ran a marathon. You know, I saved $100,000. And it's like, but they won't look deeper.
Oh,
At
yeah.
these really deep things that really is the unlock to the next level.
I totally feel that. I feel like it's the nuance in our approach. Like, my goals are no longer about those types of goals.
Same.
It is all about like, in this moment when I was too busy, how did I treat my child? And what do I have to know and believe and feel to be different, right? I love that. Okay, so the one question I want to make sure that the audience gets from this is that mother wound question about what does your mom think about somebody who's overweight can be asked in any area of your life. So my unlock was, then I said, well, what did she think about people with money? And I realized, oh my God, if you had a lot of money, there was no way you got there without doing it dirty.
Wow.
And I realized that, and I was like, no wonder I've always struggled with the idea. And I think part of it was like guilt from like the Kansas girl who's like, my brother used to always be like, oh, Shayla's so bougie, da da da. And it would bother me and hurt my feelings forever. And now I'm like, yep,
I know exactly.
It's
Thank you very
true.
much. Like, yeah, I think, because it can be hard sometimes when people, if you were to go to someone just who hadn't done a lot of work, what do you think about money? What do you think about the beauty? What do you think about success? What do you think about love? Like, it can be a little harder to kind of think for ourselves. But oftentimes if people were to say like, what did your father think about this? What did your mother think about this? I'm not saying that those will directly correlate to every single thing that you believe, but it is a very good baseline for what you are sort of seeing and understanding. You can also do that with culture and society. When I grew up, how did people view people that were overweight? When I grew up, how did people view people that had money? When I grew up, what was sort of going on? And those understandings can really see your limits and your blocks, because for a lot of us, they do hold a lot of guilt and shame.
Yeah.
For me, my parents loved money. They loved it. They were like obsessed with people that had money. It was such a beautiful thing. But also my dad lost his job a lot. So we would be in a position where we'd have money or we'd not. So it can be a positive thing too. And in internal family systems, it's really beautiful because there's ancestral burdens that we can get. You know, my mom really had a fear of being overweight, which became a burden for me. But there's also these things called ancestral gems. So my mom was a really powerful, clear person. Like, any room she's in, it's very obvious she's in the room. And I got that from her. And it's so grateful. And so even when you do this work, it can be really overwhelming to look at all the negatives and all the challenges that you might have to work on in your life. First of all, they're already unconsciously running your life. So it's a beautiful thing that you're starting to work on it. But second, you can also look at the really beautiful aspects of what your parents brought in your life, even if it's like hard to find, and support yourself in really knowing that there's so much good that you have in you from them, even if you have to look a little bit harder for it.
I love that. As soon as you said ancestral gem, love that term, first of all. So good. I knew immediately what one of mine was. So Popsy King had a saying, any man can smile when life goes along like a song, but the man worthwhile is the man with a smile when everything goes dead wrong. And that level of, we show up happy and positive, even in the hard times, is absolutely something that was passed down to my father and to me. And you'll see it throughout the King family. And I mean, obviously, we're not going to talk about it today, but coming out of the coma and being grateful instead of revengeful is part of that ancestral gem. And I love that. It's the work and it's the ancestral gem combined.
I think when you experience it, like you probably did with coma, it's so rewarding to think that way. I think before, when I was a little bit more angsty, when I was younger, I felt like it was a violation to myself or something, or I felt like I didn't want to think positive. There was a protector part of me that was like, I don't want to think that way. How could this be for purpose? But then when you actually get to the point where you literally think, everything is literally happening for my greatest good. This was such a gift to me. I can't wait to see the good on the other side. Like, life becomes so joyous and momentous and fun. And it just becomes this symphony of good thing after good thing after good thing, even when it does seem good in the moment. And so it's such a beautiful gift for anyone to give themselves, to have a mindset that can find the good in anything and find the beauty in even the darkest times.
I love that. I remember having a coworker say to me at that time, he was like, "Oh my God, you just have the worst luck." And I go, I literally didn't understand what he meant. And we had worked for a wine company who went public at the wrong time and unfortunately had just filed bankruptcy. And then I had a coma. And for me, I just got engaged. I just started my business at a beautiful blended family. And I was like, what are you talking? Like, I literally didn't understand. I just came out of a coma. I didn't understand how you could think I had bad luck. I'm like, I'm alive. Like, I made it.
Totally. You're like, you don't know what world I'm living in.
Yeah. And so I love that because I'm not one of those people that thinks everything happens to you for a reason. But I believe a reason can come out of it and I can make it good and I can do something with it. Like, I've gone through a lot of hard things in my life and I don't think they happen to me for a reason. But I do think it makes me a better coach. I think it makes me a better survivor. It makes me a better, like, woman who can hold space for hard shit.
I think when you could have that reframe, I'm so grateful to be a coach to have that. So whenever I have things that I go through and struggle with in my life, I can always use it for good.
Yeah.
My dad's really sick. He has Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. And, you know, something that's really hard to be with, and especially be with for a long time, when you're seeing someone sort of lose reality and you're sort of losing a relationship again and again, I can always have that landing place of like, oh my God, I can be more kind to people that have been through this. I can understand a different texture of the human experience. I understand grief differently. Like, it allows me, because I live a life of service, every single thing that I go through that's hard becomes another thing that I can help others with, and becomes another thing that I can be a greater understanding of humanity for. And it's such a beautiful way to see life.
It is.
I'm so grateful for it. I love being a coach. It's the best.
It really is. I honestly, I'm like, I do this is my life's mission, my life's work. Like, I every day wake up and I'm like so freaking happy.
I don't think it's for everybody, but I think it's for people, specific people. And when you're doing it, it's just the greatest.
And you know,
yeah,
if it's built for you, you know, because
usually
there's nothing better I've ever done with my life.
It's for the people that are healers or helpers, but you have to really work with yourself. So you're not self-sacrificing. You're not doing it for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
But when you can get that under control and just become a coach out of like the genuine, true desire to help or serve or be yourself or have people be themselves, it's like the greatest thing.
I love that.
So good.
Quick sidebar. You're allowed to make money doing it too.
Oh my God.
I love making money. And I think it's so funny because people act like, well, if you're helping people, you should do that for free. And I'm like, I can make a widget and you have no problem with me being a multimillionaire for the widget I made, but I'm changing people's lives and somehow now it's not.
Or you could do something that's harmful to society and make a lot of money, of how money is structured and who deserves money and not. And I'm so grateful to be at a time where you can make money doing good and being yourself. And I'm so grateful to be someone that's doing that. And I'm so grateful to be an example of someone that can live a life that's rich and abundant and be who I am and serve. And I think people all have their own service in their life, whether it's corporate, whether it's being a mom, whatever it is. Like, it doesn't have to be a coach, but you definitely can and deserve to be who you are and live a life that feels sustained and abundant.
I love that. And I think for so many of my clients, that's being a woman in leadership.
Yes.
Because as the leader in the company, you're getting to do that with so many people around you, in and out of your community. I mean, I led lean in circles for a long time. And so being able to do that in and outside of your company and help people.
All right, friends, there you have it. I told you this was going to be a deep one. The good girl is something that I am trying to help us break out of. Just like ending the miserable mom era. On this episode, we talked about the mother wounds and how things that get passed down aren't just heavy stuff. Some of it's a pure gifts. I loved the term she introduced me to, ancestral gems. Okay, so what actually happened was Krista and I had such a good conversation. We just kept going and going, and it was too long for one episode. So I'm bringing you back for a part two. In part two, we're going there. We're going to talk about why the world hates a successful woman. And how sometimes even ourselves can find weird feelings that come up when a woman is beautiful and successful and kind and has the audacity to want it all. So, we're going to talk about all of that and friendships, how to make them as adults, when it's time to cut somebody out of your life. We're going into all of it, and we'll be back with a little bit more about our parents. I talked more about my relationship or lack thereof with one of my parents than I have ever talked about publicly before. And Krista opens up beautifully on what it's like to live with an aging parent and the challenges and the beauty that she's finding in that process. So, hope to see you back for part two, and let me know what you loved most about this episode. Thanks again to Krista.
Thanks for joining me in the 5% Club today. If you're ready to make more, work less, and design a life you love, then go to ShaylaKing.com and join the waitlist. You'll be the first to know when there's openings to work with me in one-on-one coaching or the Performance and Happiness Lab, my group container where you will learn to be a high-performing, highly paid executive who loves your whole life. I'll see you there.